The other day, I was graced with a life-changing opportunity, right? I watched the Odyssey. And now, you know how people would tell you, oh, this movie changed my life, stuff like that. It didn't. But it was a very, very lovely film. And it was made by Christopher Nolan. And he never, ever, ever makes mistakes in his movies. They're all bangers, just like me. Anyway, now I'm there, right? I'm watching the film, and then Odysseus is leading his crew. Um, the Void, the zero viewers that are always watching me. I really love it. I really appreciate you guys. You make me who I am today. Spoilers ahead. So I'm there. I'm seeing Odysseus. He's operating his crew around, and it's the Odyssey is basically built around the Trojan War, right? Yeah, basically they give a gift to this kingdom that they're at war at, and there are people inside the horse. If you've been living on a rock, this story would be the first time you've heard it, but I'm going to tell you anyways. So they're inside this wooden horse that they built, and then they give it as a gift, but inside is a bunch of soldiers that basically ends up allowing the soldiers to overthrow the kingdom that they're at war with, which is actually more powerful. I think that actually is the reason why you know the horse is the only piece that can jump over other pieces. Anyway, the one of the characters, the guy that's supposed to give the gift to the other kingdom is, yes, a trans actor, right? And after watching the film was when I found out that they were a trans actor. Oh, trans actor, isn't that a device? Should say it properly. Trans actor. That is anyway. And then people, I'm not even gonna say critics, individuals that looked at one critique about the Odyssey is meant to show Greek mythology and warriors. They're meant to be these, hunks. So let's look at this critically, right? You're about to watch a story, and because of you know, the Odyssey is not a historic event. It's a story, right? And it's a story that Christopher Nolan has taken his time to make for you. So, well, let's look at it like this, right? Yeah, I have no analogy for you. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you something unique, right? And it's a very bizarre concept, right? Why don't we just enjoy the story, right? Ah, yes, Helen. Helen is apparently meant to be white, right? This bleeds into a lot of other, topics and stuff that we talk about, right? Who said Jesus Christ was white? Who said Daniel was white? It could have been Asian, Mexican, and then people would be like, well, actually, it's historically it makes more sense for them to do. Historically, you don't know shit. You know, most of the time we just use our assumptions on human trade routes to, say that. But um, you'll realize over time that human beings are quite unique individuals. You can't really, you know, ponder or even begin to predict what they're going to do. Anyway, they're saying Helen was meant to be white. All right. Whatever you say, I think that the black actor did a great job. All right. What's the other thing I was talking? Yes, the actor that was trans, and people were saying, why does he look so feminine? So, your issue is that a character looks feminine. I feel like that is, you know, reasons to introspect. Look within yourself for the reason why you feel the need for a character to be so masculine that was never even discussed to be masculine in the first place. Um, the other issue that people were complaining about was that yes, the movie is not historically accurate. I already spoke about that. It is quite literally a story that they're trying their best to portray nicely to you, right? So you can enjoy the film. But then all of a sudden you tend to have not you, maybe it is you, but not you per se, but the person I'm talking to. Right after watching the movie, they're like, wow, that movie was pretty cool. Maybe they went to go and watch it with their friends. And then their friends like, yeah, bro, that movie was shit. Why'd they have a trans actor, bro? Like, that's so weak. Then you're just like, oh, okay, I guess that is a point. And then you go and you watch let's say you have a certain YouTuber that you always watch and you like a lot, and then they say the same thing. And then now you're thinking to yourself, hey man, maybe the Odyssey was shit. And then all of a sudden, who you are is completely gone. You know, you over time I feel like we tend to, what's the word? Keep on picking ourselves in places where they can never be found, like social media. Anywho, um, yes, the actor for the main general that was horror farming throughout the entire film. Let me tell you, that actor is a handsome man. Looks very androgynous. Apparently, that was an issue. All right. But opinions usually are like that. One person has an opinion and it seems more correct than the other. And then you end up just realizing that, hey, there was no real issue in the first place. He's an actor, great actor, very handsome man, looks very much like a girl, which is pretty cool. I actually don't know his name, and my editing skills are that of my love life, non-existent. So you'll realize that I have very poor editing skills, so I can't even put an image there. But Void, don't worry. Over time, I'll do a good job. I promise. And I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about the Odyssey. You know, if Yeah, there is no if. That's pretty much it.